100 now in his last 6 games. 2-1. These two teams are equally tough in extra innings. Both teams are unbeaten in extra innings. Slow curveball. Missed with it. 3-1. Both teams do well on the road. The Mets are exceptional on the road. Some people think they have a chance to relax. Fastball, and they walk it. The Mets on the road are 30-17. So with Matthews on base twice, he continues to get aboard, and Frank Howard piloting the ball club since Davey Johnson was given the boot. For Howard, he can't be too upset about Matthews walking. Gary leads the league in walks. And here now is Leon Durham, who hit into a force play in the first inning. No score, 4th inning, 1 out. Good play by Keith Hernandez to short hop that thing coming out of the dirt. One ball, no strikes.
When you watch Hernandez at first base, he's always got that glove right next to the ground. He keeps it nice and low, even the target he's given to the pitcher to hold a man on. And when he gets off the base, he almost scrapes the ground. Look at there.
1-0. And Darling hits it. Gold Glove 6 straight years at first base. Keith Hernandez. No score on the 4th. 1 away. Fisted foul behind the plate. Here comes Fitzgerald to the backstop screen. No play. Ron Darling trying to win his 11th. He's 10-3. Last 7 decisions have all been victories. He's also a stopper for the Mets because 6 of his 10 wins have followed a loss. Of course, today he's following a victory, 2-1 last night. Tough man at the plate, Leon Durham. 6th in the league in RBIs. Durham, his last 12 hits, he's had 2 home runs, a triple, 3 doubles, and 6 RBIs. So I would expect, with Hernandez at first base, Matthews checking to see if he'd be allowed to go, but they sure don't want to take the bat out of Durham's hands, especially now.
I wouldn't think so.
3-1 the count. So Darling pitching very, very carefully following the walk to Matthews. The Cubs played very cautiously with Dernier. Remember, he didn't go 2-1 or 3-1. And finally, trying to go late 3-2, and Sandberg hit into a double play. We'll see if they do anything with Matthews. 3-1. Yep, he goes. Ground ball inside first because Hernandez was coming off the bag. Matthews on his way to third. Strawberry finding the ball in the corner. Matthews scores, and into third. Another extra base hit for Leon Durham. Wow, he had a triple of his last 13 hits. 2 home runs, now 2 triples, 3 doubles, and 7 RBIs.
It was a good piece of hitting, not because he ended up with a triple, but you could see he was really trying to pull that ball as Matthews goes into the dugout because he had that gap between first and second. His job was to hit it to right field and at least have first and third, but when he got it between Hernandez and the bag, he had himself a triple. That was a good piece of hitting because he had to pull the ball, and he did exactly that.
So with 1 out, a run in, the Mets infield is back, and Keith Moreland the batter. Brooks comes up a little bit near the bag at third. Moreland flied to right in the 2nd inning. Big breaking ball. 1-0.
There are so many times when you're up there that you have to do something. Durham had to pull that ball. Moreland has to get the fly ball now. He's got to make contact. He's got to get the fly ball to drive in the run. He gets the ground ball to the shortstop or second baseman, yes, but he's looking for the fly ball.
1-0. Breaking ball, and he's behind 2-0. Moreland, when the Cubs traded Mel Hall and he became a starter, has paid off. Since the middle of June, He's had 8 home runs and 29 ribbies. The Cubs call him Zonk. Fastball, and he zonked it to straightaway center. Mookie Wilson goes back, tagging up as Durham, and he can walk in. And it is 2-0 Chicago with 2 out in the 4th inning.
And you just saw why the Cubs are where they are. They're doing the things that winning ball clubs do. Look at Jim Fry congratulating Durham as he comes in, and he'll do the same thing to Moreland, who got the job done.
So Moreland picks up his man, 2-0 Chicago, and here is Jody Davis, who struck out in the 2nd inning. Bad ball, 0-1 to count. Jody hitting just under 300 against the Mets this year. Oh! 1-1. So Ron Darling with 1 out walked Matthews. Durham tripled him home, and Moreland's fly ball picked up Durham. Ball 2, 2-1. We pointed out that Jody's catching almost every day, and he has been in a slight struggle now. 0 for 14. Fastball fouled away a little late. That, of course, is why I think, Joe, there should be a special category whenever you talk about a catcher and his hitting, because catching itself takes so much out of a man. His hitting should really be scrutinized in a different way than any other player.
Well, of course, I'm all for that. Well, Jim Murray says asking the catcher to hit is like asking Marilyn Monroe to learn how to spell.
2-2 to Jody, who has done a great job hitting and catching. Ball 3, 3-2.
There's one other thing to that, too. Not only does it sap your strength, your hands are always a little bit beat up. Not enough to get you out of the lineup, but you got the torn nail, the foul tip that's got your finger swollen, or you got the bone bruise.
3-2. Fastball line to left, but Danny Heap going back, and it's over his head, short hopping the wall 370 feet away, and Davis into second base standing with a double.
It started out to be a routine fly ball, it looked like, but Danny Heap never did catch up with it. It was just over his head. The ball was hit a little bit better than Danny thought. Looks like he's going to make the play, and then says, oops, that's over my head. That got out there in a hurry. Now he knows it's gone.
So in the inning, the Cubs flexing their muscles, a double, triple scoring fly ball. They're leading 2-0. And Ron Shea with 2 out trying to pick up Jody Davis. Shea has not given the Mets much trouble at all. He's hitting 125 against them. Check swing foul, 0-1. Going into this year and throughout this year, Ron Shea had never played a position in the majors other than third base. He has been on 6 all-star teams. 0-1 to count. And he promptly hits it to center. Mookie Wilson coming up to put it away. So a walk, triple, scoring fly ball, and a double. 2 runs, 2 hits, a man left. And at the end of 3.5 innings, the Cubs 2 and the Mets nothing.
No man has beaten him, and all have fallen by round 10. The Beast returns August 5th.
Bottom of the 4th inning at Shea, and the Cubs leading the Mets 2-0. It'll be Mookie Wilson, Keith Hernandez, and Darryl Strawberry.
Leading off the bottom half of the 4th inning for the Mets, number 1.
The Mets without a base hit. Sutcliffe has struck out 4. The Mets have had 1 base runner. That was Hernandez, who walked in the 1st inning and was wild pitched to second. And of course, remember the rhubarb on what we thought was just a wild pitch, and it turned out to be a check swing, strike 3, and Davey Johnson kicked out for arguing in the 1st inning. Mookie flied to right, 0 for 1. If he gets aboard, he's a problem. He's stolen 30 bases. 1-1. Shea on the edge of the grass at third. 1 ball, 1 strike. High pop fly. Boa with his glasses glistening looking at Shea as Shea makes the catch.
I asked Keith Hernandez, who's coming up, about pressure and talking to the young kids, and here's what he had to say.
Young fellas at all about it?
Well, I think it's a situation where it's still a long way to go right now, but you want to maintain to them that it's just one day at a time. And Jim Cotton, Gene Tennis were great when my first experience in '82 with the pennant, and it's just one day at a time, and take it one day at a time. It's a long way to go.
Long way indeed as Keith climbs in.
Is he handsome?
Boy, is he ever. And a Gold Glove and a MVP and a batting crown winner in '79. In fact, when he won the batting title in '79, he hit .344, and no National League player has hit that high since. Quite an all-around player. Yet, he went late in the draft. He was a 40th round pick of the Cardinals. 1-0. Strike.
You'd think they'd draft a guy like that just for the team picture.
It's a good thought.
It's like a soap opera star.
1-1 to count to Keith. He has 2 other fellows who are right on the edge. Claudell Washington and Steve Yeager. Claudell with Atlanta, formerly played here, and of course Yeager with the Dodgers. They each have 99. Fastball missed. So Sutcliffe, who walked Hernandez in the first inning, the only Mets base runner, has fallen behind to him 3-1, and on deck, Darryl Strawberry. Hernandez has a walk a game for the last 17 games. 3-2. Interestingly enough, he wears 17 to remind you.
Took something off that pitch, and that's the sign of the good pitcher. Something besides the fastball when he's behind 2-0 or 3-1.
Full count. Got him looking. Fastball on the corner. 5 strikeouts for Rick Sutcliffe.
Right fielder, Darryl Strawberry.
He's ready, but watch his pitch. He wanted to pull the trigger, just couldn't do it.
So Sutcliffe fools Hernandez. In fact, he's fooled 3 of the 5. They've been caught looking. Strawberry, ball 1.
Darryl just watching the umpire change baseballs. This is like a picnic for him when you can hit like that, nice and cool.
He's a hot hitter. 14 of his last 18. He's collected a base hit. And he slices a fly ball to left center. Matthews and Denier, and it will be Denier, the captain, out there to put it away. So Sutcliffe is just retiring them one after the other, 10 in a row. He still has his no-hitter going through 4, and it's 2-0 Cubs. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
Sunday, Michael loses his memory in a high-flying nightmare.
Hey, what's going on? Please, trust me.
Can Kid help him? An explosive night rider Sunday. WTWO, Terre Haute.
Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola from Shea Stadium in New York. 2-0 Cubs in the 5th inning. And Larry Boa fouling one off to the left. Fitzgerald over to take a look, but that's all. This is a milestone in the career of Larry Boa. Boy, how the games pile up if you're fortunate enough to have that kind of a career. 2,100 games as of right today. 5th place all-time games played for a shortstop. And who is the all-time leader? A name they'll never forget in Chicago, Luis Aparicio. 1-1. They're shortening up with Brooks up at third. The outfield is shaded to left and somewhat shallow, a gap in right center. Fastball hammered to right. Base hit in front of Strawberry. Balboa goes 1 for 2.
Here's one of those situations now, Vin, where you almost want to go out to your pitcher and say, hey, look, he's going to be bunting. Make sure he bunts the ball. Lay it in there so he gets a good ball to bunt, and maybe we'll make a play at second base. Of course, now, if he switches on you, you're going to get trapped, but 9 out of 10 times he'll be bunting. So you don't want to put that extra on it. You don't want to throw that high fastball. Make sure he bunts because they're starting to crowd him already. Brooks is in the third. Hernandez is a good fielder. Darling is a good fielder. They got a chance for a double play if they get the ball on the ground.
Well, if Frank Howard checked the stat sheet, he'd know that Sutcliffe has sacrificed twice this year. Trying to make it 3, and he takes ball 1.
I used to get in arguments like that. I wouldn't want that good high fastball to pop it out. Make them bunt the ball on the ground.
Sutcliffe with 3 hits and an RBI this year. 2-0 Chicago, top of the 5th inning. And Sutcliffe has not allowed a hit through 4 innings. Hernandez holding the runner on and yet not on the bag, as you can see. There's the bunt. And Darling has to go to first base, so he flips it to Wally Backman. The sacrifice is in the books. Boa advances to second, and Bob Denier will consume a little time and let Sutcliffe get back to the dugout.
And while he's consuming some time, we do want to send our best wishes to Eddie Montague, the umpire, who is not up to par. I think he's in the hospital, word I get, and certainly wish him a speedy recovery and get back where he belongs.
Yeah, I think the doctors advised him just take 2 weeks off and bail out. So Eddie, get well, but take your time. Denier had a single and struck out. He's 1 for 2. Fastball missed. 1-0. 2 runs, 5 hits for the Cubs. No runs, no hits for the Mets. And we're in the top of the 5th. Curveball hit down to third. Hubie looks his runner back at second and takes care of Denier. So with 2 out, Ryan Sandberg will try and pick him up. Hubie Brooks, day in and day out at third for New York.
Second baseman, Ryan Sandberg.
Ryan Sandberg, who has had an absolutely wonderful year, 0 for 2 today. He leads his club in hitting with men in scoring position. And here he comes with 2 out and a runner at second.
Just a solid, quiet young man. He hits the home run or pops up, no change of expression.
And you were talking about Hernandez being a handsome kid. How about young Ryan Sandberg? He's a cover boy.
Leads the major leagues with 50 extra base hits.
Good fastball right down the pipe.
They always talk about were the players better when you played. You think they're better looking today than they used to be?
Never paid any attention from the bleachers where I sat. 0-1. Another fastball, and he was late getting around on it. 0-2 the count to Ryan Sandberg. Gary Matthews on deck. For the Cubs, you can understand the feeling in Chicago. They've gone 38 years, a National League record, since they last finished first.
The last time they were in the World Series, Steve Trout's father was pitching against them for Detroit, and Steve Trout of the Cubs is now referred to as a veteran pitcher. That tells you how long it's been.
And he'll be on the mound tomorrow in the doubleheader. Breaking ball, so he gave him 2 fastballs and changed off the curve, but got it up around the eyes. 1-2 the count. Ron Darling battling Rick Sutcliffe today. And another curveball whacked inside third and down the line. So the RBI man does it again. He knocks in a man from scoring position. And he leads the major leagues in extra base hits. He now has 51. Rhino. Boy, what a year.
Did he wait on that curveball or did he wait on it? Watch him now. It's a slow curveball once again. And he just drills it between the third baseman Brooks and the line, and they've got a 2-base hit. Nothing he can do about it.
So Sandberg does what he does all year. Picks up a man in scoring position to drive in Larry Bowa. 3-0 Chicago as Matthews fouled it back. So the Cubs now, amongst their 6 hits, have 2 doubles and a triple. Doubles by Davis and Sandberg and a triple by Durham.
One of the questions I asked Davey Johnson, the 2 guys that in the lineup, you don't want him to beat you. He said, I don't want anybody to beat you. I said, well, I think Durham and Sandberg are the 2 guys. If you had to throw a fastball, where would you throw it? He said with Sandberg in, but here he gets nailed with the curveball, and that can't be his best pitch, that slow curve.
Here's the strike 1 pitch to Matthews, and he comes back with the heat, and he's a little high, 1-1. So Darling roughed up for a double and a triple in the 4th inning. Gives up an additional run here in the 5th and finds himself down 3-0. 2 out. Boy, good fastball. 1-2 the count to Matthews. Gary singled to center in the 1st inning. He's hit in 9 straight. Walked and scored a run in the 4th when Durham tripled him in. And another fastball got him looking. Gary didn't think that was anywhere close. The ball is high, man. I could read those lips easily. You might think the ball is high, but plate umpire Terry Tata said it was down the pipe. A run on 2 hits, a man left. At the end of 4 1/2, the Cubs 3 and the Mets nothing. Three 0 in favor of the Cubs, and of course an interesting inning now. Sutcliffe is not allowed to hit through 4. Did you ever catch a no-hitter?
Never caught one in spring training. I mean, I don't think those count. I caught one on the playground too, but that doesn't count either. And I'll bet you Sutcliffe knows it, as I've said so many times. If he doesn't, Mets have provided that service.
The Rick now, who has had a 2-hitter in his career. He's never had a no-hitter or a 1-hitter. And he's working on Danny Heap. Strike. Danny grounded out wide of first to Leon Durham. 0 for 1. 3 runs, 6 hits for Chicago. Nothing for the Mets. And a shot back to Sutcliffe. That's the closest to a base hit. 1 away. That's 11 in a row retired by Sutcliffe. The only man he allowed aboard was the walk to Hernandez in the 1st inning.
Usually he's falling towards first base. He's going that way, but the ball is hit right there, and there's the glove. Good play.
Third baseman, Hubie.
So with 1 out in the 5th inning, and the Cubs leading the Mets 3-0. The batter is Hubie Brooks, who flied to center in the 2nd inning. Actually hit the ball almost to straightaway right, and Denier came over and made the catch. One 1-0, the count to Hubie Brooks. He'll be followed by Mike Fitzgerald. Breaking ball away, 2-0. Cubs scored twice in the 4th, once in the 5th. The Mets have been unable to get on track so far against Rick Sutcliffe. Fastball, and he was late, popped it foul off first and out of play. When you compare these 2 teams, 2 things that jump at you. The Cubs, #1 in runs scored, but 10th in pitching. The Mets are 3rd in pitching, but they've been near the bottom in runs scored all year.
The Cub defense against Brooks, you talk about him swinging late. Apparently that's the plan, because they're shading him towards the right field line.
2-1 to count to Hubie. 2-2. For Brooks, he needs 1 hit for 500 in his career. But he's been a pretty successful hitter for New York. You know what's interesting? You try and see if history will repeat. And there is a pattern developing, although it is only July. 0-3. The first 7 years, the Mets were last 5 times and next to the last twice. And then the miracle of '69. And would you believe now, the last 7 years, they were 5 times last, twice next to last, and people are wondering about the miracle. Well, there's the base hit. And Gary Matthews gets it back in.
They were shading him to hit the right field, as we pointed out, and he pulls the ball. Watch him get around on it. And he gives Jim Fry a lot of credit for that when Fry was the batting coach for the Mets.
So with 1 out in the 5th inning, Hubie Brooks singles to left to break the spell, and Sutcliffe is not quite ready to pitch. The batter will be Mike Fitzgerald, who flied to right in the 2nd inning. That's that 500th base hit we were talking about, and they got the ball for Hubie, and the Mets begin to move around in the bullpen.
Ed Lynch loosening up for the Mets. He's been their holder. Ball clubs now, they have guys who set it up for the big guys. They have Orozco that comes out of that bullpen, or Sisk, and Lynch has become the holder, is what they call him. Hold the other team.
1 out, 5th inning, 3-0 Cubs, and that's ball 1. And of course the Mets fans sitting on their hands and vocal cords for 4 innings, now trying to make some noise, shake a couple of runs loose. It's 3-0 Chicago in the 5th. Sutcliffe, after retiring 11 in a row, gives up his first hit here in the 5th. That's high. Mike Fitzgerald is one of those kids who experienced a wonderful moment in his first major league at bat. He hit a home run against Philadelphia. What did you do your first at bat?
Popped up to the second baseman.
Wouldn't you know?
It was a tough play, though.
Right, son.
I was 1 for 4 in my first game. Got to hit the last time up in that game, but the first 3 times, I can't say they were as nice a moment as Fitzgerald had.
Well, Mike, who was a favorite of Davey Johnson, who managed him at Tidewater last year. 1 out in the 5th. Cubs 3, Mets nothing. One down the left field line, in there for a base hit. Matthews chasing it to the track. Going to third is Brooks. They will hold him on a double by Fitzgerald. And the Mets are alive and well. Fry making his way out to the mound, and you might have seen Frank Howard go over and say something to Rusty Staub. The pens are quiet. Lynch, you saw throwing for the Mets finally, and no one moving in the Chicago pen.
The sequence that you have usually is when you lose your no-hitter, try to save the shutout, then you try to save the game. He got that ball up, a fastball, and both Brooks and Fitzgerald were able to pull that ball. Keep in mind that Sutcliffe had struck out 5. Nobody had really drilled anything until this inning.
So Sutcliffe facing his first challenge, but he's leading 3-0. The shortstop, Rafael Santana, coming up, struck out in the 3rd inning. One out in the 5th. Cubs 3, Mets nothing. Mets at 2nd and 3rd. And Sutcliffe a fake to 2nd, and he was also looking at 3rd. Brooks at 3rd, Fitzgerald at 2nd. 1 out. With Santana up there, the outfield is shallow and shaded to right. 4-1. Denier and Moreland are really up. Matthews ready to go either way. And Fry alone with his thoughts. Santana wants the cloth that's been dipped in pine tar and rosin to get a better grip. No strikes to Santana, and the chant "Let's go Mets" ringing around Shea Stadium. Fastball hit into left center. Matthews was late reacting. It'll roll to the wall. 2 runs are in, and Santana will hold at second base. I don't know whether Matthews lost the ball in the crowd, but he was very late in picking it up to break to his left, and it rolled to the wall. Cubs 3, Mets 2, the tying run at second with 1 out.
There's Matthews breaking. It's by him all the way to the wall, and that's a big base hit because it keeps Darling in the ballgame, that's for sure.
So after retiring 11 in a row, you have a single and back-to-back doubles. High slider, ball 1 to Darling. So the tying run at second base with 1 out. A lot of magic here with those come-from-behind victories. Darling followed by the second baseman, Wally Backman. High chopper over the mound to Boa at the bag, who takes care of Darling. And Santana moves to third.
He got the job done by at least topping the ball to where there was no play on Santana. Boa goes to first, picks up the out, but the man moves over to third, and now Shea has moved in.
Jim Fry has gotten George Frazier up in the bullpen. And Wally Backman trying to get the Mets even. The tying run is 90 feet away in the person of Rafael Santana. Backman has struck out twice. Shea is in on the grass at third. Ball 1.
Struck him out twice with the overhand curveball.
Little guy, amazingly enough, leads the Mets regulars in hitting with men in scoring position. We'll see what he does now. Fouled away, 1-1. Backman had a key base hit last night.
If you were a guest hitter, Vin, and you were up there right now, you only got 1 strike on you. You can't afford that luxury. I think I'd be looking for the overhand curveball. If he throws me a fastball, I'm dead. But if I get the curveball, I might be able to smack it back up the middle.
1-1. Fastball. 2-1.
But he missed the strike zone. Even if you were guessing, you were all right.
2-1 to Backman. Mookie Wilson on deck. Santana at third. Cubs 3, Mets 2 in the 5th inning. In a madhouse called Shea. Change up, and he missed. A straight change, and Jim Fry is working that gum to death. Three and 1 to Wally Backman. Fastball, and he hits it to the right side to Sandberg, and that's that. However, 2 doubles and a single for 2 runs, and at the end of 5, the Cubs 3 runs, 6 hits, the Mets 2 runs, 3 hits. Another memory of 1969, the pride of Chicago. Ken Holtzman pitching a no-hitter, disposing of Henry Aaron to get the last out, and hugged to death by Ron Santo. Tomorrow, take a look at NBC Sports World.
He was the underdog, the challenger.
Oh, right hand by Lockridge, and Mayweather is down.
It was the punch of the year. Now, Rocky Lockridge is back on NBC Sports World. There is a world of difference.
Rocky Lockridge, Julio Urena in a 10-round bout from a 16th century Italian castle tomorrow on NBC Sports World.
That's what they used to call my house on Elizabeth. Italian castle.
Is that right?
Not 16th century. My father, they took his plans.
Rick Sutcliffe, who just did get out of a jam in the 5th and is leading by 1, looks on now as Leon Durham leads off in the 6th inning. Ball 1. Durham, Moreland, and Davis again for Ron Darling. Well, we got a dandy. The Cubs 3 runs, 6 hits. The Mets 2 runs, 3 hits. 2-0. Durham hit into a force play in the 1st inning, tripled into the right field corner to cash in Matthews, who had walked in the 4th. 3-0. They are turning the lights on at Shea. We went from heavy leaden skies to some blue and sunshine, and it's darkening up again. So the lights are on. Ball 4 to Leon Durham. So Darling has walked 2. He has struck out 4, allowed 6 hits and 3 runs.
Right fielder, Keith Morelands.
Keith Moreland flied to right in the 2nd inning, flied to center in the 4th deep enough to pick up Durham from 3rd. So Keith 0 for 1 with an RBI. And Darling now struggling a little. 1-0. He's missed on 5. On deck, Jody Davis. And there goes Durham. Fastball hit foul down the right field line, out of play. So they put a hit and run play on with Keith Moreland.
He picked the pitch, Jim Fry did. 5 straight balls. He figures that he's going to really bear down to throw a strike here. And with Moreland up there who can handle a bat, he'll stay away from the double play and start Leon Durham.
1-1 to count to Keith Moreland. Durham held on by Keith Hernandez. Top of the 6th. Cubs 3, Mets 2. John Vukovich coaching at first, and Don Zimmer over at 3rd for the Cubs. Of course, Don Zimmer at 3rd and Jim Fry go way back together. Fastball is popped foul off to the right and out of play. There he is. Don, of course, who played shortstop for the Brooklyn Dodgers. He and Jim Fry grew up together in Cincinnati. They went to high school. And Don Zimmer was an original Met back in 1962. 1-2 to Moreland. Durham at first. Curveball hit up along 3rd and foul. Moreland looked like he was badly fooled on that pitch.
He had already shifted his weight, but his bat was back, and he just kind of fought it off where he was going to avoid the strikeout. He didn't have the swing where he would drive it, but watch him now. His weight is already committed right there. Now look at the bat. He just reaches out and gets a piece of it. And that's good hitting. It really is, because he was fooled, but the bat was back.
Keith hit a home run against every team in the National League last year, so you know you got to have some kind of bat control to do that.
Musial was the best I ever saw at that. He'd stride on a change of pace, and that bat would be back, and he'd drill one in the left field.
So Keith fighting off that breaking ball. 1-2 the count. Durham has stolen 11 bases this year. Cubs 3, Mets 2, top of the 6th. Fastball fouled away.
Then that was Darling's 100th pitch.
Well, we were saying after the first 3 innings, if he didn't cut down on his pitches, he'd never make it. He'd wind up making 160. And here he is, over 100, and he finally fooled him and struck him out on that big breaking ball.
It was out of the strike zone, but with 2 strikes, you're trying to protect that plate. It was a good pitch for Darling, and Moreland cannot get it. 6 strikeouts. You see a lot of foul ball. That's why you make a lot of pitches. Good pitches. Whitey Ford was the first I ever heard about it. 1 pitch and 1 out is what you like to get the ground ball. That's when you're wholesaling it. 3 pitches for a strikeout, you're not wholesaling it.
Well, Frank Howard and Bobby Valentine looking on. They see Darling come up with 6 strikeouts in a game for the 4th time this year. He is not particularly a strikeout pitcher. Jody Davis has struck out and doubled. A shot, short hop by Santana, over to Backman, back to Hernandez. What a fine play by Rafael Santana to get 2 out of that one.
And Johnson said he's got a great glove.
And at the end of 5 1/2, the Cubs 3 and the Mets 2 in a battle between Ron Darling and Rick Sutcliffe.
Bill McAtee back in New York, and the White Sox, who have lost 5 in a row, have now scored on the Yankees. Greg Luzinski deep to the wall at Comiskey Park. Pudge Fisk scores to make it 2-1, but Don Mattingly homered in the top of the 4th, so they're tied at 2. Back to you, Vin and Joe.
Okay, Bill, it is 3-2 Cubs here in the bottom of the 6th inning. And Mookie Wilson, Keith Hernandez, and Darryl Strawberry. Wilson has 30 stolen bases so far this year. In '82, he stole 58 to set a club record. He stole 54 last year. The point being, if he gets aboard, you got a rabbit out there. Right. Wilson flied to right and popped to third. Shea plays him on the grass. No balls, 1 strike. In there. So Sutcliffe, immediately asserting himself, goes 2 quick strikes on Mookie Wilson. Sutcliffe was sailing along. He had retired 11 in a row. Suddenly, Brooks single, Fitzgerald doubled, Santana doubled in 2, and the Mets were back in the game. Breaking ball hit back at first, and there's Durham. And Leon will do it himself. 1 out in the 6th, and Keith Hernandez was walked and struck out coming up.
Hernandez.
Modern design, Joe.
That's a camera that the Mets use to take videotapes of their hitters, and like most ball clubs, when they do that, they like to get them when they're in hot streaks so that they see what they're doing right, and when they do fall into that slump, they can go right to the videotape.
Well, here's Keith Hernandez, 0 for 1. 1 out, bottom of the 6th, Cubs 3, Mets 2. Fastball hit the other way, slicing foul into the seats.
Then you talk about waiting a long time. There's a guy standing on the Cubs bench now, Yosh Kiwano, on his little white hat, who's been waiting a long time. He was over there when I was there, waiting a long time for a winner. There he is. He is the clubhouse attendant. Jimmy Dykes first brought him to Chicago many, many years ago.
And his brother Noby, of course,
with the Dodgers,
the equipment manager of the Dodgers. Here's the strike 1 pitch. 1-1 to Keith Hernandez.
I think when Mr. Wrigley sold the club, that was one of the stipulations, that Yosh would still be there.
Smart move. 1 ball and 1 strike. Fastball slashed foul outside of third. 1-2. You talk about covering the outside part of the plate. Even though he's a little late, he's hit both those balls right on the button.
And he's hit him. He hasn't just reached out for him. He has been driving that ball that way. Here's the swing. Watch it. He's going out after it, trying to hit it into the opposite field.
Remember, when he struck out, he was caught looking at a pitch on the outside part of the plate. So that's where Sutcliffe has been living. We'll see if he stays out there or now tries to come in. Breaking ball on the hands, fouled away. So he finally had to challenge him inside.
Boy, I'm sure that that article was written by that scientist is true, that a ball can't do this and can't do that. But when I see curveballs like that, it is no optical illusion.
Yeah, you can see them from almost anywhere in the ballpark. 1-2 to Keith. Timeout. Fastball on the hands, and he didn't get around. It really tied him up. Durham to Sutcliffe. Down on one knee is Leon to make the play. So after going away, he came inside, breaking ball and then the fastball, and Keith Hernandez was properly jammed.
If you're going to win in the big leagues, you've got to come inside, and you've got to come in with good stuff. You can see how tied up his hands were. He really couldn't swing with any kind of authority. He was kind of trying to fight it off, but it was just a weak ground ball. And Durham, I think, has been showing a pretty good glove around first base. He's made some good plays today.
So Hernandez back to the bench, and with 2 out in the 6th inning, here is Darryl Strawberry, who struck out and flied to center. 0 for 2. Durham playing him in deep. Sandberg is on the rim.
If you were like me, did you notice how Jody Davis looked as we look at the defense, looked at Strawberry's eyes, and then checked where he was standing and moved in and moved out, thinking maybe he was sneaking a little bit of a look? See him?
1-0 to Darryl. Missed away, 2-0.
Watch and see if he looks up at Strawberry to see if he's checking and maybe sneaking a peek. That's Jody Davis. He's looking at the third base coach now. There, he's taking a look at Strawberry. Now he's flashing a sign, looked again to make sure.
He looks like he's going to sell you something illegal. Ground ball wide of first. There's Durham shoveling underhand to Sutcliffe, and he gets them all. So Leon Durham has a glove on 3, and at the end of 6, it's 3-2 Chicago. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
WTWO, home of the Colts.
As we go to the 7th inning with the Cubs leading the Mets 3-2, the Cubs will have Ron Shea, Larry Boa, and then pitcher Rick Sutcliffe. This is the 6th meeting between the two clubs. And look at the Cubs. When you have somebody like Lee Smith down there in the bullpen, you get into this inning leading, and you've almost got a lock on it.
Darling, by the way, Vin, has made 102 pitches. 103, obviously. 62 strikes, 41 balls, 24 batters, 12 first pitch strikes.
That's a little too many. He's on that 50 pitches for every 3 innings. I don't think he can make the 9th inning at that rate. Breaking ball away, 1-1.
But the point you made early in the game that both clubs have great bullpens. He can go to a Roscoe or Sisk, the Mets can, and of course they got Smith and Stoddard on the Cubs side.
Of course, Stoddard worked heavily last night. Line drive base hit to left field by Ron Shea. So the Penguin goes 1 for 3. That is hit number 7 for the Cubs, and it'll bring up Larry Boa, who takes a long look at Don Zimmer.
A lot of things they can do here.
Boa is a switch hitter, of course, and is a contact hitter. And they have him bunting. Down to get it is Darling. Bare hands to Santana. Whoa, what a play. Oh, boy. Ron Darling. He was master of his own ship. He was going to second from the moment he left the mound.
There was no doubt about it that he was going to go to second base. He comes charging off. He knows that Shea doesn't have great speed, grabs it barehanded, and look at him. He goes right to second base. That's really a gutsy play, because if he doesn't get him, obviously he's in deep, deep trouble, but it's the kind of play that'll get you right out of an inning and make you a winning pitcher.
Remember, we mentioned at the start of the game, the Mets have an extra infielder with Darling because he was a good shortstop in college, and sure enough, he made himself a shortstop play.
That's why with Sutcliffe batting in that 5th inning, he wouldn't make sure he bunted the ball to get the man at second.
See if he's bunting. Instead, he almost picked Hernandez off.
And Sutcliffe at the plate did tip off that he was bunting because his hand slid up the bat handle as Darling made his first move to first base.
Brooks on the grass looking bunt, and he's swinging now and hits it in the air to right center. Mookie Wilson says he'll take it.
Things can change so fast in this game. I tell you, it's cat and mouse all the time. It's really the game you never see. Everybody's got a spot on a diamond that they're watching. The catcher's always watching the infield, the batter. The infielders are watching base runners, and people on the bench are watching the third base coach.
Jim Fry won the championship in his first year at Kansas City, and then went into the World Series and managed against Dallas Green. And now here he is in his first year with the Cubs working for Dallas. and chasing the Mets. So Boa at first with 2 out in the 7th, and they're keeping an eye on him. Boa has stolen 7 out of 9. Fastball missed. So we'll keep an eye on Boa for you, as Denier, checking with Zimmer, had an infield single, struck out and grounded to third. 1-0 to Bob. Pops it in the air into shallow right, angling out as Backman, coming in as Strawberry, and it'll be Darryl making the catch. In the 7th inning, no runs, 1 hit, a man left. At the end of 6 1/2, the Cubs 3 and the Mets 2. Now, a 7th inning stretch, and who do you think it's all about? Who? I ain't talking.
Old Spice presents 7th inning stretch, brought to you by Old Spice antiperspirant and stick deodorant. Both are 24 hours strong.
In 1946, Joe Garagiola was a rookie for the world champion St. Louis Cardinals, a rugged catcher who startled baseball fans by hitting .316 in the World Series. Following spring, although Joe worked hard and keened his batting eye in the Grapefruit League, he quickly plunged into a slump that lasted for the next 8 years. Drifting now from team to team, always a wisecracking backstop, Joe's best defense was a good joke to make the batter blink. An innovative performer, Joe also founded the Pittsburgh Pirates Pasta and Kazatsky Club. Nobody throws curveballs at announcers. And behind the mic, Joe Garagiola's new game plan shines with hometown sincerity and Hall of Fame wit.
Congratulations, Joe Garagiola honored on the 7th inning stretch.
Where does he come off with startled?
And rugged catcher.
Startled, though.
Rugged catcher.
Startled.
You pick yours and I'll pick mine. Meanwhile, Rick Sutcliffe, 82 pitches in 6 innings. He's backed up by Lee Smith in the bullpen, and the Mets down by 1.
After 6 innings, we talked about Darling's pitches. Sutcliffe, 82 pitches, 53 strikes, 29 balls, 16 batters, 8 first pitch strikes.
And B. Lee in the pen, and the pitch to Heap. Ball 1. 3 runs, 7 hits for the Cubs. 2 runs, 3 hits for the Mets. Shea about even with the bag at third. 2-0. Bottom of the 7th. Fly ball into right center. Denier is there. So Heap 1 away. And the batter will be third baseman Hubie Brooks. Sutcliffe started off allowing only a walk to Hernandez in the 1st inning, then retired 11 in a row. Faltered in the 5th inning when he gave up a single to Brooks, and then back-to-back doubles by Fitzgerald and Santana, and the Mets got to within 1. But now he has turned around and retired the next 6 in a row. Hubie Brooks, fly to center, single to left, 1 for 2. Save almost on the line now. And there's a one-hopper into center field. So Hubie Brooks, who pulled for a base hit in the 5th inning, and that convinced Shea to get on the line, goes the other way and single to the right of Sandberg. So the tying run is aboard, and Mike Fitzgerald the batter. That's only the 4th hit for New York against Sutcliffe.
They're not going to try any trick plays, but if you were catching this ball game, you'd have to think about the Mets wanting to stay away from the double play as we look at Jim Fry, and that would mean start the runner and put the bat on the ball.
Lee Smith almost ready if they need him down in the Cub bullpen. Fitzgerald flied to right and double to left, and Shea is almost on the line back of the bag at third. So the Cubs don't want to be burned by another extra base hit. There's Shea retreating near the chalk. Hubie Brooks, a tying run at first with 1 out in the 7th inning. Cubs 3 Mets 2. Mets with a 7-game winning streak. Fastball hit to center. Dernier going back on the ball. It dies, and he drops it, and it goes behind him. Brooks going to third. Valentine is waving him in. Sandberg's throw. He scores. Stopping at second is Fitzgerald. That ball must have had topspin to die that way.
Looks like he's got it, and then all of a sudden it seemed to knuckle and hit him on the heel, and Dernier doesn't know where it goes, and Bobby Valentine has him coming all the way around. Brooks, Sandberg's throw hits the mound and really slows down. If he gets it over the mound, it might have hit the grass and taken off, but it hit behind the mound, and it really dies. Now he's looking for it. That gave him a couple extra steps. Hits the relay man, Sandberg. Now watch where Sandberg's throw ends up. And it goes straight up, and it wasn't close.
There have been some magical moments here at Shea this year, and that's another one. Ball 1. They had the winning run for Pittsburgh canceled because he left third too soon. They had a winning run trip and fall down 10 feet from home plate. They had an outfielder drop a fly ball and eventually win. And now for the 4th time, a magical moment against the opposition.
Wasn't there a play in '69 that came off the fence directly back to Cleon Jones?
Yep. Well, there's John Vukovich and Jim Fry and Lee Smith in the pen. And the Mets on a big break on a fly ball dropped by Dernier. 3-3. Tell you one thing, sitting up here and looking at that ball, it suddenly died. I think that fooled Dernier more than anything else. And when he lunged, it hit him on the wrists. But it was an erratic fly ball. It was not that easy. Something happened to it, whether it was a knuckleball flight or topspin on it, and he got burned. And there's ball 4. And now Rusty Staub is going to hit for Darling, and they're going crazy at Shea. Jim Fry points to the bullpen, I want Lee Smith. And a discouraged, downcast, and disconsolate Rick Sutcliffe leaves the mound. A 3-3 tie. Mets at first and second, 1 out. And Le Grand Orange, that they called him in Montreal, Rusty Staub, will be batting for Ron Darling. And Sutcliffe goes out in a bad spot where he can only lose or have nothing to do with it. We've talked about the magical moments at Shea this year, and we've also talked about the memories. What kind of a memory do you have about the magic of '69? Let's take a look. Do you remember the black cat that ran around the field? Leo DeRocher?
Lee Smith, a hard-throwing right-hander, and that may be the understatement of the year, because in Candlestick Park this year, the Giants gun measured him on a pitch to Negotia at 101. I mean, 101, you should be pulled over and arrested for that. That's how hard he was measured in throwing.
Well, we have a great moment here. One of the premier relief pitchers against one of the better pinch hitters, Rusty Staub. Ball 1. The word on Staub, of course, he will never score a run this year unless he hits a home run. Every time he gets aboard, they put in a pinch runner for him. But what a confrontation in a 3-3 tie.
He's probably the only designated hitter in the National League because he doesn't play. Johnson's doing it with a short roster, but this fellow's bat is so potent.
Only Pete Rose and Rod Carew have more hits than Rusty Staub amongst active players. 2-0. In there.
And for a young hitter, you know that Rusty looks like he just wants to get a piece of that. Put that ball in play. He's choked up on the bat, which is a trademark of his, but not a whole lot of useless action as he waits for the pitch from Smith. He's ready, he's cocked, and he's ready to swing quick and right now.
After 20 years and 87 days in the big leagues, prior to this year, he's seen it all. Now back. It's interesting to think that Pete Rose and Rusty Staub began their careers at the same time. But Staub spent part of 1964 in the minors, so Pete Rose has a slight lead on him as he chokes up on the bat. 2-2. Now 3-2 and 1 out in a tied-up game. Are you going to turn him loose? You have Fitzgerald at second, Santana at first.
Oh, I'd turn him loose because Rusty's going to get a piece of it. A strikeout's a rarity. And right here, you got that relief pitcher he's out there throwing and not thinking he's going to throw strikes.
Staub has struck out less than 10%. The runners go, and it's foul back.
You can see why relief pitchers are so valuable. As we look at Frank Howard flashing a series of signs, once again, does he want to start him? He's getting word from Davey Johnson some way, of course. But that's Smith. He's just rearing back and firing as we look at Bobby Valentine, who's flashed the signs already at third.
Rusty with a dozen hits this year and 9 RBIs against a man who has inherited 21 runners in scoring position this year and only allowed 3 to score. The runners go, and the pitch hit off the hands. A looper, Durham. A rolling catch, throws to Boa, and they double up Fitzgerald.
Nothing you can do. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. He jammed him. He made a good pitch. Staub just hit it on the handle. Durham breaks. The ball is really not stung. Dives, and he knows he's got to play at second base because Fitzgerald was already at third.
At the end of 7, the Mets and the Cubs all locked up 3-3.
It's all here in this lovely, peaceful corner of New York State. Memories. Memories of the great and legendary, of the bigger-than-life heroes of our youth. The Hall of Fame is the treasury of baseball's greatest memories and thrills. Baseball fever. Catch it at Cooperstown. It lasts forever.
The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
Look at the concentration on Staub. He gets jammed, and it's really a rarity. A shoestring catch of a pop fly in the infield by Leon Durham almost throws the ball away, but it was an easy play because Fitzgerald was running on the play. I tell you, Durham, we talk about his bat, but he's flashed a lot of leather this afternoon.
Coming up in the 8th inning, it'll be Sandberg, Matthews, and Durham against Doug Sisk. Sisk, a sinker ball pitcher.
And he's one of those guys like Weaver had with Stanhouse over there that he'll have you on the edge of your seat because he's 3-2 on a lot of them, walk 1 or 2, but manages to get out of it some way, somehow. His best pitch has been said is sinker ball. If he's got it going, you'll see a lot of ground balls.
In fact, he had only 2 home runs in his career of 161 innings allowed. Andre Dawson took him deep in '82, Mike Schmidt last year, and then this year, in the 9th inning, the 17th of July, he served up a home run to Mark Bailey of Houston. What made that interesting, it was only the 2nd game all year that the Mets had lost in the bottom of the 9th inning. So he will be sorely tested now by Messrs. Sandberg, Matthews, and Durham. Sandberg and Matthews hit him pretty well. Sandberg 3 for 6 against Sisk. Today, Ryan has hit into a double play, flied to left, and doubled. 4-1. Three tie. 3 runs, 7 hits for the Cubs. 3 runs, 4 hits for the Mets. The Cub era sticks out like a shirt tail right now. The fly ball dropped by Bob Dernier. Number 2 man behind Tony Gwynn. Sandberg having a remarkable year. And so many of those hits, like Gwynn, in the clutch. He has a 6-game hitting streak. The Mets have a 7-game winning streak, and 6 of those Mets victories were by 1 run. They don't usually overwhelm you. Sinker missed, 2-0.
Here he goes. It's a pattern that Sisk has. He doesn't want to do it, but it just happens that way.
3 balls, no strikes. And he walks the leadoff man in a 3-3 tie, and immediately timeout. Mel Stottlemyre going out to the mound.
Mel has been given a lot of credit for working with these young pitchers, and his theory is very simple. A pat on the back is worth 2 kicks in the seat. But it's just a case of, hey, we have no defense against the base on balls. Just don't get fancy. Your good stuff, throw strikes, and there's Jesse Orozco. He's getting up in a hurry because the fire is starting.
The starting pitchers are not involved. Sutcliffe went 6 1/3 and gave up 3, and he was bailed out by Lee Smith. Ron Darling went 7 and allowed 3. And right now it's in the hands of the relief pitchers, Lee Smith and Doug Sisk.
Just because he walks Sandberg on 4 pitches, you can't assume that Gary Matthews will be taking the pitch to make sure he throws a strike.
Sandberg is a very good base runner. He's stolen 17 out of 20, so they're worrying about Matthews. They have to also worry about Sandberg. Look out, that got away, high and inside, and down to second base goes Sandberg. So a sinker ball pitcher almost throws it over Matthews' head.
And now we'll see if the Cubs continue to play the good baseball as we watch that high riding fastball. He tried to come inside. It goes off the heel of the glove, and I mean by that Matthews has to hit that ball to the right side here, at least until he's got 2 strikes on him. He can't pull that ball because if he makes out, he's got to at least pick up a base.
So Doug Sisk, with a record of 1 and 2, is in trouble. He walks the leadoff man and wild pitches him to second. And the sinker is dribbled up along third. Barehanded by Hubie Brooks. No play. And taking third is Sandberg. And the Cubs are in business now. First and third, nobody out. Durham, Moreland, and Davis coming out.
Hit that ball right on the handle, it looked like. There was no way he was going to right field.
Stepping up.
But he hit it just perfectly because it just dribbles down the third base line. There goes the hat off. And there's nothing that third baseman Hubie Brooks could do but just pick it up and eat it.
So with first and third, nobody out. 3-3 in the 8th. Here is Durham, hit into a force play, tripled into the right field corner to drive in a run, and walked. He's also scored a run. Sinker missed, so Sisk really digging a hole. Ball 2. Brent Gaff, the right-hander, and Jesse Orozco down in the Mets bullpen. Sisk hasn't thrown a strike yet in 7 pitches. There's a strike, and it's banged into right field. So Sandberg scores. Matthews stops at second. It is 4-3 in favor of Chicago. Jim Fry is going to send in a pinch runner for Gary Matthews. Henry Cotto comes off the bench, and he will run for Matthews with nobody out. And it has unraveled for Doug Sisk.
Durham has had himself quite a day. That's his 2nd RBI. He has scored a run, a triple. He has walked, and he certainly has flashed on the field. They're looking for the bunt here because they want to stay away from the double play. Hernandez is already in about 5 steps at first base.
Number 28, Henry Cotto. And now batting, right fielder.
So Keith Moreland flied to right, had a scoring fly ball and struck out, and Doug Sisk has given up a walk, an infield single, and a ground single to right. Hernandez ready to come to the plate. Brooks at the bag, and a strike.
It's a tough spot for the base runner at second base, Cotto, because if he gets too big a lead, they got a chance for a pickoff play.
Moreland has sacrificed with a bunt just once this year. And he bunts it at the feet of Sisk. He can't pick it up, and the bases are loaded. And here comes Frank Howard.
He popped the ball in the air and had backspin on it, and he just couldn't find the handle, so everything that could go wrong has gone wrong for Fisk, and Frank is going to make a move. There you see Gaff. Watch the bunt now. It's kind of popped in the air, almost like he was going for a base hit, and that put the spin on it. Sisk comes off. It starts back to the plate, hits his foot, and that's one of those where you want to get a stick and just beat it.
Doug Sisk can't hold it, and the tie is broken. The Cubs leading 4-3, bases loaded, nobody out. We'll be back. Boxing and soccer, big day on NBC Sports World tomorrow. Big day here at Shea Stadium for the Cubs, who are looking for their first victory of the year here. The Mets have won 3 of 5, and now they call upon Brent Gaff, who was recalled in May when the Mets released veteran reliever Dick Chidrow. He's been up and down with New York in the last 2 years, a total of only 11 games, but this year, with a record of 1-1, he's been in 19 games. But what a spot to inherit. Bases loaded, nobody out, and the Cubs leading 4-3 in the top of the 8th. Stottlemyre and Howard huddling in the near corner of the Mets dugout, and Jim Fry has seen his team blow a 3-0 lead and come back and try to open it up again.
It's a tough spot for Gaff, no question about it. It's also a tough spot for Fitzgerald, because you got to figure he's got to get ahead of this hitter. And usually when you get ahead of a hitter, it's with the fastball. And if you're a hitter, that's what you're guessing. And all these things are running through your mind. If he can get a curveball over, I'm sure he'll have a quick strike. But if it's a fastball, you're going to see Jody Davis fly open like a window shade.
And time.
Balk.
Did he balk? He sure did. The Brent Gaff comes in and balks, and it was called by Terry Tata. Evidently, he started to make his delivery and then broke the delivery while standing on the rubber.
I don't think he was sure whether he wanted to pitch off the full windup or off the stretch. And now he's thoroughly confused. Watch him get up on the mound. Now, right there. Now, he's set. That's his set position. His hand, his right hand, just started up, and then that's it. Now they got to walk Jody Davis.
The run is charged to Doug Sisk. So 2 runs in the inning, 5-3 Chicago. That's the first balk of the year charged to Ben Gaff. Dwight Gooden has 4 balks. Of course, this is a very young staff. The Mets starters, for instance, are averaging 23 years of age. In fact, the veteran is Bruce Froemming, who's in his 4th full year. So the balk followed by the intentional walk. It is 5-3 Chicago. Bases loaded again and nobody out. And Ron Shea, the batter. Shea is struck out, flied to center, and singled, opening up matters in the 7th inning. 1 for 3. Davis at first, Moreland at second, Durham at third. Hernandez wide of the bag and up. Everybody else. And now Brooks comes up at the bag. So the infield about halfway around second base. Fastball is going to be hit over second base into center field. Durham will score. Here comes Moreland to score. Going to third is Davis. And thanks to a couple of breaks, the Cubs, like a good ball club, have cashed those breaks in. As Shea singles in 2 to make it a 4-run 8th inning.
It's really been a Halloween inning for the New York Mets. The base on balls of Sandberg started it. Matthews dribbles one. Durham hit the ball hard. Moreland That ball was not drilled, hit off the trademark, but a perfect spot right up the middle, and 2 more runs score.
So it is 7-3 Cubs on a 4-run 8th inning.
Number 21.
Jay Johnstone is coming out of the Cubs dugout, and he will bat for Larry Boa with 1st and 3rd and still nobody out.
Manny Mota, who knows something about pinch hitters, calls Jay Johnstone the best pinch hitter going.
Johnstone, as you can see, has impressive numbers, hitting over 300. As a pinch hitter, he has 8 hits and a run batted in. Jay does not have a home run, as you saw. In his career, he's had at least 1 home run in every season he has played. Right now, he'd settle for a long fly ball. Ball 1. Davis at 3rd, Shea at 1st. 2-0. 7-3 Chicago here in the 8th inning. And the big guy, Lee Smith, on deck. 3-0. At first base, Ron Shea. Over at 3rd, Jody Davis. 3-0 the count to Johnstone in a 4-run 8th inning for Chicago. Brent Gath has followed Doug Sisk, who picked up for Ron Darling. And now they're going to walk Johnstone intentionally with a runner at 1st. You haven't seen that very often. So Shea goes to 2nd. The bases are loaded with nobody out. And Lee Smith coming up. We realize it's far-fetched. It's just the fact that it's so interesting. 2 years ago, the Cubs hit into 2 triple plays. Both of them were against the Mets. The Mets have hit into 3 triple plays in their history, all against the Cubs. And here you have the bases loaded, nobody out, and the Cubs leading 7-3. Now we'll have a runner as Johnstone was walked intentionally. And Dave Owens, who can run and play shortstop, will take over for Johnstone. So Jim Fry, 1 minute, saw the Mets get 2 in the 5th, 1 in the 7th to catch him 3-3. Now see the Cubs take a 4-run lead over Frank Howard. Strike to Lee Smith. Howard managing in the absence of Davey Johnson, who got the boot way back in the 1st inning. Foul tip. 0-2. Smith has only had 6 at-bats as Gaff tries to nail him here. 0-2. Smith is 0 for 6, striking out 4 of those times and make it 5 out of 7. So he's not much with the bat.
But as big as he is, you say to him, hey, big guy, you really had some good cuts. I'll tell you that, sir.
Where does he sit? Anywhere he wants. So Gaff strikes out Lee Smith with 1 out, and the bases remain loaded. Owen at 1st, Shea at 2nd, Davis at 3rd, and the leadoff man, Bob Denier. And of course, Denier, who was almost the GOAT when he dropped the fly ball, now comes up there with a chance to contribute, but he hits it to Brooks. He goes to Fitzgerald. No further play. So a force at the plate, 5-2. Everybody else moves up 90 feet. That, by the way, the 2nd out of the inning. And it'll bring up Ryne Sandberg. Hit into a double play and flied out, doubled and walked.
Ryne Sandberg.
He's coming right to the plate, make sure, and a good play by Fitzgerald. He knew he wasn't going to get Dernier, but with the full arm bluff, he might have had a chance for base runner at 3rd.
Slider missing, ball 1. Sandberg 1 for 3. 7-3 Chicago. 2 out in the 8th. Fouled away. 1-1. Sandberg with a chance to pick up a couple more. Ron Shea at 3rd. Owens at 2nd, and Dernier at 1st. 1-1. When the Mets bat in the bottom of the 8th inning, they'll have Backman, Wilson, and Hernandez. Shows you how the fortunes change so dramatically and so quickly. Remember the bottom of the 7th? The Mets had scored the tying run. They had first and third, 1 out, and a 3-2 count on Rusty Staub. The runners were going. Staub was jammed and blooped into a double play. Big chopper over the head of Brooks and down the line. Shea will score. Owen will score. Dernier goes to third. Into second goes Sandberg as he picks up 2 more RBIs. It becomes a 6-run 8th, 9-3 Chicago.
It's right in front of the plate, and there's no chance for Brooks to make the play. And Sandberg, he was digging for second all the way. I don't know how they officially rule it. I would imagine a single, but at any rate, 2 more runs score. Nothing Brooks could do but just try to get it. It isn't even close.
So Sandberg picking up 2 RBIs. That's 3 in the game. And Henry Cotto, who came into the game, remember, running for Matthews, now come up with first base open. A 6-run 8th inning.
There goes that guy in the stands again selling fire. Everybody's leaving.
Yeah. Yeah, they've had it. Big 6 in the 8th. And a bouncer up the middle, and that should make it a big 8-run 8th. And it does. And it is 11-3 Chicago. And that ought to do it.
Stepping up, first baseman Leon Durham.
There they go.
So Brent Gaff gives up 4. Sisk gave up 4. And there's a shot foul down the right field line. Durham looking for his 3rd hit. Went foul. Leon with a single, a triple, and a walk in 4 trips. Plus, he made the diving catch of that blooper off Rusty Staub's bat and converted it into the double play. 11-3 Chicago. So what was a tight pitching duel and a very exciting 7 innings has disintegrated here in the 8th. Changeup fouled away.
What you do after an inning like this is you call in the team and you have a roll call to see if everybody's here and if anybody got hurt.
Brent Gaff has been gaffed here. High foul out of play. But of course it was Doug Sisk who had everything come apart. Sisk began the inning by walking Ryan Sandberg.
Who's your MVP?
Sandberg
Nope.
or Durham?
Durham. I give it to Durham.
Hey, I heard that man call you a rugged catcher.
Startle the people.
No, I'm not going to. Whoa, look out. Talk about startled. Check swing foul right into the Cub dugout. Nothing will bother them now with an 8-run 8th leading 11-3. Fisted foul into the crowd behind the Cub dugout. Cubs and Mets play a doubleheader tomorrow. The Cubs trying to start some momentum, snapping a Mets 7-game winning streak and cutting the Mets lead to 3.5. 2-2. We've talked so much about 1969, you can't help pointing it out. And they'll never forget in Chicago. The Cubs led by 9.5 in early August. The Mets won 23 in September and won it all.
A 2-1 win last night for the Mets was a big one because the Cubs have to sweep the doubleheader to make up ground. Otherwise, they go out of here splitting the 4 games, and there's 4 less games on the schedule.
And there goes the runner and another foul. So Cotto going, and Durham fouled it off. Interestingly enough, this is only the 6th meeting of the year between these two. So they've got a lot of work. As they all agree, no pennants given out in July. Ground ball to Hernandez. He'll have to flip to Gaff coming over and falls. And did he get the bag or didn't he? He got it. It was the plate umpire, we were watching Eric Gregg at first base. And he just did get the bag.
What he does, he reaches for it as he's running. He breaks his stride right there. Now he's going to really stretch out, and he just lost his balance, but Greg has already called him out.
Well, we talked about the summer of '69. In fact, we've been talking about it all day. Do you remember this one? Wayne Garrett, the hitter for the Mets. A line drive single to right. The runner at second, Tommy Agee, around third, coming to the plate. The flow to Randy Hundley is not in time, and look at Randy. That was in 1969.
The American tradition continues. In the 70s, they dominated the National League. The Big Red Machine of Cincinnati and Dodger Blue. They played their own brand of baseball and won. Now the Dodgers are in the pennant race again as they take on the Reds. Or the White Sox battle the Brewers. The tradition is here. The memories are waiting. Next Saturday.
Wally Backman starting off in the bottom of the 8th inning. The Mets floored by an 8-run 8th for Chicago, and the Cubs leading 11-3. On the corner, 0-2. Dave Owen, who ran for Jay Johnstone, who batted for Larry Boa, is at shortstop. And Henry Cotto, who ran for Gary Matthews, is in left field. And a shot up the middle for Backman. Well, we'll see if that's anything more than a murmur of protest.
Stepping up, Mets center fielder,
Mookie Wilson coming up. Since the Mets have come into existence in 1962, they've established quite a rivalry with the Cubs. And in their head-to-head meeting, the Cubs have beaten the Mets only 5 times. That's a difference. The Cubs, by the way, during the next 3 weeks, have some big games. The Cubs will entertain Philadelphia for 4 at Wrigley Field. 5 games with the Mets. 2 of them at Shea. And they have 8 games with the Expos, 4 of the 8 at Wrigley Field. One and one. Cubs trying to get to 14 games over 500. They haven't been more than 5 games over 500 in the 80s. So they're trying to regroup. Strike. Well, you talk about a lead looking big, 11-3 with this fella on the mound.
He does throw hard. He can break a new glove in the doubleheader, I'll tell you.
1-2 the count. Mookie Wilson 0 for 3. Flied to right, popped up, grounded out.
First time I saw him was in spring training. I was sitting in the Mesa ballpark with Bob Sheffield, and I turned to Bob. I said, "Is that for real?"
Well, 1-2. Foul back. Lee Smith working on Mookie Wilson. On deck, Keith Hernandez. One and 2. Fouled away. If you're Mookie, you're standing up there at the plate and you're eyeballing a big right-hander. Lee Smith is 6 feet 6 inches tall, 235 pounds. They had to change the mound in Wrigley Field because he was hurting his knee. They had to resculpture it. Two and 2.
Those big guys like that, they always give you the feeling that you're hitting uphill because they're coming down. 6'6"?
6'6".
235. Some condominium's not that big.
Can you imagine in his last 2 years he's allowed only 3 earned runs in a game once? Check swing foul. So Mookie's still up there, 2 and 2.
He's a little bit disgusted because Mookie's been fouling him off, and he's much as saying, "Do something, will you?"
Backman at first, nobody out. 2 and 2 the count of Mookie. A high chopper to short. Dave Owen has it and goes the long way to first. So 1 out. Backman takes second. Keith Hernandez will be coming up. The National League East. What a story. A complete flip-flop from this time a year ago. The Cubs trailing by 4.5, but they want to change it to 3.5, and now, and it looks like they'll do it thanks to that 8-run eighth. Philadelphia hosting Montreal tonight. Cincinnati and the Dodgers scoreless in the 6th. Atlanta leading San Francisco 2-0 in the 2nd. San Diego with a doubleheader at home with Houston, sitting atop the heap, 8 in front of Atlanta. Hernandez walked, struck out, and grounded out. Keith 0 for 2. Ball 1. Hernandez started the day at 3-12. In the 7th inning, the Yankees are leading the White Sox in a seesaw ball game, 3-2. White Sox trying to play catch-up. They've lost 5 straight, and they're 3 back of the Angels. Time was called. 1 ball and no strikes to count. Two and 0. On deck is Darryl Strawberry. 11-3 Chicago in the 8th inning. And Lee Smith behind 3-0.
In the old days, you even put some shoe polish on your catchers to make that ball pop. Today, they catch it in the webbing, but as hard as he's thrown, he's even making the webbing pop.
Make it twang. 3 balls, no strikes. In there.
Hear it? Mm-hmm. And that's hard to do now because they're catching them in those pillows. I remember one time warming up a kid, Mr. Ricky was looking at him. He made me change gloves because he thought the kid would ask for too much money.
Trick glove. 3-1 pitch. Fouled away. So 3-2. Back of Lee Smith, George Frazier is loosening up. 11-3 Chicago. Bottom of the 8th, 1 out.
Don't you miss those kind of things like catcher's mitts popping like that? You remember how hard they used to sound?
Fouled away. So Hernandez up there hacking with 1 out. Backman at second base. 11 runs, 12 hits for the Cubs. 3 runs, 5 hits for the Mets. Twisting foul ball down the left field line, way back into the seats. The paid attendance today, 37,518. 37,518. The Mets going over their attendance for all of 1983 today. And a lot of exciting baseball left here and in Wrigley Field and the Vet in Philadelphia. And since we have so long to go, maybe Olympic Stadium in Montreal. 3-2. Fouled away. So first it was Mookie wearing them out with foul balls. Now it's Keith Hernandez. The Chicago White Sox, 3 games back of California and losing to the Yankees. We'll see if they can regroup next week with the Milwaukee Brewers.
Smith has made a lot of pitches because of the foul balls. He hasn't been using any trick pitches. Not that he has any. He just rears back and fires that good fastball. Here you see his motion, big stride, and here he comes. Hernandez draws the base on balls.
So he's a little disgusted with himself, giving up a base hit to Backman, opening up the inning, and now walking Hernandez. And with 1 out, Darryl Strawberry struck out, fly to center, grounded out, and there's ball 1. And now Leon Durham going to the mound.
I don't think that mound is comfortable for him, Ben. You talked about how they restructured in Wrigley Field. Now everybody's coming out. Billy Connor's the pitching coach. Leon Durham's coming. See what in the world is wrong, because with a lead like that, all you really want to do is throw strikes. Connor's just trying to settle him down.
You wonder sometimes with that 8-run inning and knowing how important Lee Smith is to the Cubs, you wonder if you might have had second thoughts about leaving him in. I mean, he's so important to you. An 8-run lead. You figure you got a couple of guys in the bullpen who might be able to finish off for you.
Yeah, but he got nice and loose, and you figured he'd nail it down in a hurry.
And a doubleheader tomorrow.
Yeah, but brother, if you took him out and then you got, don't even think about it.
All right. Just a passing thought.
Well, I think we're just going to let it pass.
There's Strawberry now with first and second, 1 out in the 8th. Lee Smith laboring. 1-1 to count. One and 2. Darryl looked like he was saying that sounded like a strike.
That's all you want him to do is rear back and fire. All Jody's doing is putting on number 1 and setting up.
Frazier still throwing back of Lee Smith. You wonder if Jim Fry is thinking, okay, if he gets the last 2 outs in the 8th inning, I'll bring this fella in to pitch the 9th. We'll see. It's 11-3 Chicago. Woo. Check swing, no swing, says Bruce Froemming at third. It was Bruce, of course, who got the heat here when he threw Davey Johnson out of the ballgame. Ground ball to the hole and through into right field. Wally Backman will score, and Hernandez holding at second, and that makes it the Cubs 11 and the Mets 4. So Strawberry goes 1 for 4, drives in a run, and Danny Heap coming up. He finds Hernandez at second, Strawberry at first, 1 out. Danny grounded to Durham, then he hit back to the box, and last time up flied to center. 4-1. (11-4) Chicago in the 8th inning. Fouled away. Second deck off to the left of the plate. Ball 2. Strike on the corner. 2-2. Runners at first and second. Hernandez at second and Strawberry at first. Breaking ball slicing to left center. Denier is there, makes the catch, and the runners hold. That's the second out of the inning, and it'll bring up Hubie Brooks.
Now batting, third baseman Hubie Brooks.
Hubie Brooks flied out, singled to left and scored a run in the 5th inning. Singled and scored again in the 7th. He scored on the fly ball that was dropped by Denier. 11-4 Chicago. 2 out, 8th inning. Frazier still throwing back a Lee Smith, who's been struggling a little, allowing 2 singles and a walk for a run here in the 8th. Boy, he's really laboring.
He is. That was a breaking ball. Looked like a hard slider. Let him close.
Fastball, and it's popped up, and it'll be the shortstop, Dave Owen. And that's that. So 2 hits and a walk for a run, and 2 men left. And at the end of 8, it's Chicago 11 and the Mets 4. A reminder, the game of the week next week, next Saturday. It'll be the Chicago White Sox at Milwaukee. Joe and I will take a look and see if Carlton Fisk and company get a move on. And others will see the Dodgers and the Reds next Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. The American tradition continues.
for the
A
Mets.
couple of changes for the Mets. Ross Jones is now at third.
All tomorrow afternoon. Right
And
here.
Tom Gorman, the pitcher. And if you're keeping score, Gorman will go into Brooks' spot since Brooks made the last out. That way you can have Ross Jones bat ninth and hit third in the ninth inning. Tom Gorman is out of Portland, Oregon. He uses a forkball pretty much, and he was recalled when Craig Swan was released. He was in 25 games last year. And Gorman has to get him out in the ninth. He is 2-0 in his 23rd game. Strike. Keith Moreland flied to right, had a scoring fly ball, struck out, and bunted, and there was an error by Brent Gabb, a Doug Sisk, and there's a base hit for Moreland. Jody Davis struck out and doubled, hit into a double play, and was walked intentionally. 11 runs, 13 hits for the Cubs. 4 runs, 6 hits for the Mets.
You know, when you ask Jim Frey about his club, he calls them aggressive offensively.
First ball swinging, popped up on the right side, and Keith Hernandez puts it away. So Davis pops it up, 1 out. You talk about Jim Frey and his ball club. He won 2 batting titles in the minors. He was a lifetime .302 hitter in the minors, but never made it to the big leagues. He was a Mets batting instructor for 2 years and worked particularly hard with Darryl Strawberry, who, of course, is trying to come back and haunt him. Right.
I think he's got as many Earl Weaver stories as anybody I know.
Shea has 2 hits, 2 for 4 in the dirt, and pushed to the left and going down to second base easily. Moving in on the play is Keith Moreland.
I think that got Terry Tata. Fitzgerald goes out to talk to Gorman. I don't know if he got a glove on it. May have been crossed up, and you're kind of checking with him. Let's see if he gets a glove on it. Got the umpire all right. Umpires love that, man.
It'll be a wild pitch. And now finally, just about as they're ready to hook up again, Terry Tata rubbed at his left leg. Moreland at second. 1 out in the ninth. 11-4 Chicago. A change, actually, that fork ball, and it's outside. 2-1. Tom Gorman. The Mets have used Darling, Sisk, Gaff, and Gorman. Fly ball to center, fading a bit is Mookie Wilson. Going to the bag to tag is Moreland. The catch is made, and with that bad arm, why, Mookie can't stop Moreland from going to third. Watching Moreland, he went to the bag as if to say, okay, I'll just fake the tag, and then it was almost as if that light bulb went on. Oh, wait a minute. Wilson has a sore shoulder.
Yeah, I can go over. So he went over. He just kind of trotted over there. There you see Mookie.
I guess everybody in the world knows that right shoulder's hurting, Mook. That's the worst kept secret in town. Here's Dave Owen, the shortstop. And he lifts one back a shortstop, and Santana looking for help, and Danny Heap says, I'm here. So that's it. A base hit and nothing else. And at the end of 8.5 innings, the Cubs 11 runs, 13 hits. The Mets 4 runs, 6 hits. Who was throwing back of Lee Smith, and Lee just didn't look like himself. He was very wobbly in the 8th inning, and Jim Frey decides, okay, I'm not going to waste a 9th inning with Lee Smith. With 2 tomorrow, Frazier trying to get the last 3, and he's ball 1 to Mike Fitzgerald. Fitz flied to right, doubled, and hit the fly ball that was dropped by Bob Dernier. 1-1. (11-4) Chicago in the 9th. Fastball, a one-hopper at short. Dave Owen is right there, and that's that for Fitz. The executive producer of NBC Sports, Michael Weissman. The coordinating producer for NBC Baseball, Harry Coyle. The telecast of today's Game of the Week has been produced by John J. Filippelli. Directed by Andy Rosenberg. Pregame produced by Les Dennis. Pregame directed by Bucky Guntz. Technical director, Lenny Stucker and Skip Dress. Associate directors, Doug Graber, J.D. Hansen, David Hoffman. An 8-run 8th inning blew the Mets out of the water. It broke a 3-3 tie, and the Cubs leading handily with 1 out in the 9th, 11-4. George Frazier pitching to Rafael Santana, who struck out, doubled, and walked. They know all about Frazier in New York, of course. He was the setup man, as you call him, and the modern-day ball player refers, for Goose Gossage. The complete game, like the Buffalo, is disappearing. As Sparky Anderson was saying, from now on, you refer to a pitcher as a 7-inning pitcher. When people like Steve Carlton don't have a complete game, Ron Guidry, who had so many from July on last year, is just disappearing. Dave Owen going to shoot down Santana. The Major League Baseball Game of the Week has been brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By new improved Head and Shoulders with a fresh new scent and improved dandruff control. By Milwaukee's best old-time quality at an old-time price. And by Firestone, offering Master Care car service at nearly 2,000 locations nationwide. 1-0. 11 runs, 13 hits, and an error for Chicago. 4 runs, 6 hits, an error for the Mets, whose lead will be shaved to 3.5. Philadelphia hosting Montreal tonight. Ross Jones in the number 9 spot, finishing up for Hubie Brooks. On the corner, 2-1. So the Mets are down to their last strike, and George Frazier trying to punch out Ross Jones. Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Breaking ball got him swinging. So the Cubs 11, the Mets 4. The MVP, who do you like?
Leon Durham.
All right, Leon Durham it is. And light beer from Miller, happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Leon Durham to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. He made that diving catch of the looper by